April, Michael, welcome to Web Summit, and thanks for joining us today. Um, if we start off maybe giving people an overview of exactly what Slack and Trello do, April asked you first. I think the most often way people use to describe Slack is as an email killer. Is it really an email killer? And maybe from your point of view, what do you see the tool as doing?
Yeah, well, I'm curious. It's a little hard to see up here, but how many of you guys use Slack? Awesome.
That's a lot of people.
Well, for the people that did not just raise their hands, so Slack is an internal communication tool for teams, and it's got a lot of properties that make it actually a very different experience than a lot of the modes of communication that people have used in the past to communicate amongst their teams. And so what it allows teams to do is organize conversation into topics, and also to be able to provide transparency and over time access to a really rich archive of all the conversation that's happened within your team. And so it's having really profound impacts in productivity on the teams that are using it. And whether it's an email killer, at Slack we never email each other. We never email internally. Certainly email with partners like Michael at Trello and so on, but internally we do all of our communication in Slack. And so I don't think that it kills email, but I think it certainly is a better tool for the job of internal communication, and we're working hard on every day on making it the best tool possible for that purpose.
Okay, thanks. Michael, Trello's been described, I think, as a digital whiteboard for collaboration. Is that a fair assessment of what Trello does?
I think so. It's a visual collaboration tool. If Slack is your communications channel, Trello's the map of where you've been and where you're going. So it's sort of like the status of your project and where it's at and what you need to do to finish it.
Okay. And now, at the International Business Times, we use Slack to communicate, but I also still have to use email, and I have to use about 2 or 3 other tools.
Yeah.
Is that a problem in the industry at the moment, that there's just too many collaboration tools out there, and people are, the people who use it, the end users, are kind of getting fatigued that they have to learn a new tool, and that's a problem for people, that they'll just revert back to email that they know everyone uses?
Well, I don't think the answer is to revert back to email. It's actually, so I run platform at Slack, and so we view Slack as the command center for your team, and so that's actually why we've invested heavily and are continuing to invest in making Slack a platform that all B2B and enterprise tools can integrate on top of, as well as a whole new class of developers that see unique opportunities in building on top of Slack. And so I actually, it is the case that teams these days use dozens of tools to get their work done, as well they should, because they've never had more options available to them to find the best tools for their team, for their company, for the job they're trying to do. So what we want to do is actually make Slack the platform where those things can come all together and be right there, at easy access, right at your fingertips from within Slack, a tool that teams use for something like 10 hours a day when they use it heavily. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're going to fall back to email. I think over time we'll make the tools that folks like us are building better and better.
Okay. And Michael, do you think that, because I know that Slack works with Trello and Trello works with Slack, and there's nice integration there, but do you think that people will just, a lot of consumers out there beyond the kind of niche tech industry where people are obviously embracing these things, that they don't want to learn a new tool?
I think the trick is basically figuring out how you can make your tool work the way other people work instead of trying to silo them into the way that you think that they should work. Mm-hmm. So when we built Trello, actually, the API we built first, and we built our clients on top of that. So the mobile app and the web app, they all run on top of the API. And so we sort of envision Trello as being the API first and having developers build on top of that. And we're doing a lot of the same things that Slack is doing with trying to figure out how Trello can fit in with all the other tools that you're using and bring that information together so that you can have a higher level perspective on whatever you're working on.
And can I ask you, we were talking earlier about how this kind of scales from, teams, maybe it typically begins maybe in smaller teams within companies and scales to the enterprise. Is that something that you think these tools can do, that they can replace completely email systems, or how people communicate at the moment, that it can kind of go to that scale?
Well, we've seen a lot of the growth of Trello and the success. We just passed 10 million users a little bit ago, and that growth has all been organic. It's been people telling other people about it. I think Slack's growth is probably mostly organic too, and it's because the people just love the tool and they're able to use it. It's free. They can get started with it. And instead of approaching a business where you're pitching a C-level executive and they're trying to buy a suite of stuff that they're going to make all their employees use, that's not the way that the software is being introduced into these organizations. It's coming from within the teams, and then we go to these companies and we say, hey, did you know 6,000 people at your company are using Trello to plan all the things that they're doing? And so that sales process becomes totally different.
And from Slack's point of view, is that something, do you think that Slack, because I know in some of the channels that we have at the International Business Times, there's so many people in there, I just, you get lost and it can get kind of overwhelming. Is that we're using the tool wrong, or is it that it just doesn't scale to really bigger kind of groups?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you guys are using the tool wrong, then it's our job to help you figure out the best way to make use of it. And that's both in terms of product features, but also just educating our customers. And that's something that we think about a lot and invest in heavily. I think that, so similar to Trello, the majority of our adoption is word of mouth. We actually don't have a sales team at Slack. We have an accounts team that helps make sure our current customers are successful, and we have a very large support team that makes sure that when our customers run into issues, they can get really fast, helpful, effective support, so that they're never left sort of hanging. I think that as we continue to see this adoption grow from small teams, that evangelist within the company that just loves Slack, that tells their team about it, gets them using it, and it starts to spread, I think it does put pressure on us to think about the right product features to be able to support larger and larger organizations, and that is something that we're actively working on because we are pretty rapidly starting to see demand from larger organizations, and we want to be able to support them well as well.
A lot of people suggest that tools like Trello and Slack will kind of revolutionize the way we work in the future, and that will make things a lot more flexible. And we're already beginning to see a lot more people working from home. And Michael, I know half your workforce works remotely. Do you think that the way we work in the future is going to be dramatically changed, or do you think that it's still, for a lot of businesses, having people all in the one place physically is still going to be very important?
I think that having everyone in one place is actually probably the best, the most ideal. But because of just people's lives and the things that they're doing, if you want to have the best people working at your company, you have to understand that opening your applicant pool to everyone is going to get a much better pool of candidates. And we saw essentially that a lot of the communication tools like Slack, Trello, Google Hangouts, they were actually getting better and better and allowing us to have people working remotely and be as productive as if we were all in the same place. So I think as the tools got better and people became more connected and you sort of started to learn things like how do you create a culture in a company that's half remote and put all those things together, we're actually doing a lot more with a lot less organizational inefficiency, like not as much management, people, small teams attacking features and building code and shipping quickly, and that's all because the tools have gotten better.
And April, do you agree, Michael? Do you think that having people in the same place is always the best option?
I think there's no doubt some chemistry and some value that you see in having individuals in the same room. But distributed teams are actually one of the really strong use cases that we hear from our customers that make people fall in love with Slack in the first place. And actually, Slack has almost since its inception been a company that has had folks in multiple locations. And so we have an office here in Dublin. We have an office as well in Vancouver. And then we have a handful of really key individuals who are just, in a variety of different locations. And so Slack helps us be able to have that real-time communication that gives us a lot of the same benefits of being in the same room. So I think Slack goes a long way to help towards a world in which a lot of companies will see benefit in having teams that are more distributed.
And do you think, because obviously you're kind of on the inside of this and you see how people are using Slack, do you think that we are going to get to where that the majority of people won't be working in the same offices, that there will be a majority of people working from home, or do you think it's going to take quite a long time to get there?
I don't really know. I mean, I think that, we are based in San Francisco. That's obviously a climate in which there's been a lot of growth, and there's real estate is at a premium. I think there are a lot of drivers in various markets that may mean that a distributed workforce is actually a more viable option for many companies. But I don't know if I have a crystal ball that tells me exactly where things are headed.
Michael, at the moment, tools like Slack and Trello, yes, you've passed 10 million. That's a significant number, but in the grand scheme of things, I guess it's, compared to the amount of people that are using email, it's pretty minor. How do you grow from being a company of 10 million users to a company of 100 million to a company of 1 billion users?
I hope we find out.
Because you are going up against companies like Microsoft with its Microsoft Office, which is still widely used as a collaborative tool, and that. How do you go about that? You can't really get there organically, or can you?
I mean, the secret to success is to build a product that people love, right? But that's kind of trite advice because it's really difficult to do. But we set out to essentially make software that was enjoyable for people, that was fun, that was something that they liked to do, not something that they had to do because their boss was telling them that they had to use it. And we basically tried to distill it down to the way that people are already working. If you looked in people's offices, they had whiteboards. They were putting sticky notes on their whiteboards. They were drawing on their whiteboards. People had Post-it notes on their monitors. And we took that visual metaphor, the way that people think about information, and created an application from it. And I think, like the way that we communicate online in our company, Slack just fit into that, the way that we talk, and it enabled us to have half of our company working remotely with people in Newfoundland, Chile, Brazil. There's somebody in Hawaii. It's fantastic that we could keep these people with us in our company. Like one of the engineers that works in Hawaii had to move there because his wife got into med school there. So.
Okay. And April, do you think that's key, that it rather than forcing people to use these tools, you create them in such a way that people actually want to use these tools, so that that they're the ones, it's your customers who are actually driving your growth, rather than you trying to sell it to someone, that your customers are selling it to their bosses?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's in our DNA to think about how to force people to use it. I mean, we primarily focus on building the best product that we can, listening to our customers. For my part, building a platform that's going to scale so that a wide diversity of applications are built on top of Slack that just continue to make it more and more valuable to our customers. In terms of how we become the next order of magnitude and beyond that, I think we'll continue doing more of the same. But what we're also doing is growing our team, bringing in great leaders with significant experience who are able to think about what are the building blocks for us to scale the business and to be able to run it, run an international business that is going to have the potential to really fundamentally just change the way that people communicate at work. So we are well at work on that plan, and I think if we just keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully if our users keep liking Slack as much as they seem to right now, then hopefully we'll be back answering your question as to how to do that in the future.
Yeah, we could be on the center stage next time.
Yes, exactly. Sounds great. Well, Stuart already was.
Well, that's true. Before we finish, I want to ask about how you see this developing in the next 5 years. Because at the moment we've got different tools that people are using, and you can use Slack and Trello together as collaborative, and other tools with Google Docs and Hangouts and Dropbox and Box, and they all integrate quite well. Is it going to happen that someone will come along and kind of group all them together in one offering and kind of become this big monolith for the way we work in the future, similar to maybe what Microsoft Office offers at the moment? Or do you think we'll continue to see a variety of companies offering kind of a patchwork of solutions to companies?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd describe it as a patchwork per se. I don't know if that might imply a negative connotation. I think that the apps that people are building are just much more open, and they're willing to, like, you're putting your API out there and you're saying, go ahead, develop on top of it. You're not creating a whole business development partnership and with a lot of kind of paperwork and what do we get out of this? What do you get out of this? It's like, here's our API, build on top of it, do cool things, build cool things. And that's the way that developers are building their products now, as opposed to, this one giant monolithic thing. And if you want to use Microsoft Planner, you have to use Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Calendar, and so it just lets people use the tool set that they are most comfortable with.
And April, along those same lines, would it not make sense for Slack to buy Trello or vice versa, so that you could offer your customers, all the great things that you both offer, but
well, I mean, we already partner closely with Trello. Trello has a great integration that they built on top of Slack recently that they actually offer to their premium customers. And so we're already working closely together in the fashion that I expect we'll work with lots of companies that are solving problems for teams at work. And I mean, to your original question, it's never been easier to raise money. The technology is such that it's never been easier to build a great product with a limited amount of resources. You don't have to spin up your own data center anymore. It doesn't take that large of an engineering team to build a great product. And most importantly, suddenly enterprises work problems are something that great founders and entrepreneurs want to focus on. And people are building software for people to use at work that feels like it was intended for humans to use it. And so I don't expect to see, sort of this reconvergence into another monolith. I expect to see more proliferation of just, a wide variety of tools for every industry, for every function, where every team can really find the exact, set of tools that they need to be productive. And, it's our job at Slack to make sure that they can access those and use those on top of our platform.
Okay. I think our time's just about up, but I'd like to thank April and Michael for chatting to us
Thanks,
today.
David.
Thank you.
Guys.